Claire. How's it going today?
Hi, Meg. I'm doing well.
What's the latest?
I think saying hi to me might be the number 2 favorite thing that you do with me, the number 1 being brushing your teeth.
Yes. Can you explain this to everyone and Claire?
So, let's put it this way. I'm going to try to keep it short and sweet. When Meg and I met in real life for the first time, it was in June of 2022. And it was the week before our first recovery collective retreat. And we had rented an apartment near Lisbon for a week. So we were roomies. And Meg likes to brush her teeth a lot. And I feel like we would literally bump into each other in the bathroom and share this moment regularly throughout the day. And it became a thing. I don't know how else to say it.
We just realized that we both care a lot about our oral hygiene. You have all the
I have the gum issues and all the fancy little things.
Yeah, so Anne Claire would be like, try this thing, have this little floss, do this thing. And I was just loving it. I love brushing my teeth. I like the freshness of it. It's just fresh. Yeah. And I enjoyed brushing my teeth with you. It was fun. It was like a little moment. We would just kind of talk. We both had our little electric brushes. Mm-hmm. It was fun. That is my favorite activity. I can't wait for us to brush our teeth together this summer.
I am looking forward to that as well.
Best. We'll find other activities. So far, it's brushing our teeth and me saying hi. You have the same joy saying hi to me.
You know, I absolutely do. It's just, you are sunshine for me. So it's a pleasure to say hi to you.
You want to know what I want to try coming up? I don't know if you've done this with your gum explorations, but have you done the water pick floss it? I really want to try that. I haven't done that. I have one from my uncle. I couldn't figure out. I think it's missing a part, but I'm so wanting to try that.
Well,
I will let you know.
Yeah, I was going to say, please keep me updated and maybe bring it next year to Portugal if it's fantastic.
I'll try. Yeah, if it's really good, I'll give you a demo.
And you know what? If that happens, I am making the commitment to filming it and sharing it with other people.
We're going to film a vlog, Megan and Claire show vlog. It's going to be like what I do in a day. And it's like, here's Meg.
Hi, Meg. Hi, Claire. Let's brush our teeth together.
Here we are, brushing our teeth for the third time together.
Just in case people didn't think we were weird enough, we just made it a few degrees extra weird.
Yeah. We need a toothpaste sponsor to pop on our screen. Videos sponsored by Oral-B.
So if any of you humans watching work for any company that wants to sponsor us, we will take the free toothpaste, toothbrushes. We'll be so happy to include that in the goodies for our retreat participants as well. So feel free to reach out to us. We are open to your suggestions.
Love that. Yep. There's got to be someone.
Now, for the more serious part of this video, we actually do have a question.
Yes, we do.
One of our lovely human followers here on YouTube is asking if it is true that eating disorders are genetic.
Well, there's definitely a genetic component when it comes to eating disorders. So yes, they are genetically linked. But I think one message I want to make clear is that doesn't mean you're doomed, right? If your mom or your dad or your grandma had an eating disorder, it doesn't mean you are going to have one, because there's so many other factors that are complex and layered that contribute to whether or not you get an eating disorder.
Mm-hmm. No, that's a great starting point. And it's really important to insist on that, because I don't want someone to be like, well, this person in my family had an eating disorder, so I definitely will. It's not as simple as that. As Meg said, there is research that suggests that genetics do play a role. But at the same time, There's this phrase that goes around a lot in the eating disorder recovery spaces, which is genes load the gun and environment pulls the trigger. And I like that to also put like that accent on, yes, maybe your genes are making you more prone to developing an eating disorder, but the environment has pulled the trigger, i.e., you are also living a certain life in a certain context, and things that happen to you and the context and the culture in which you're growing has a massive impact on you. So both play a role, right? Sorry, I cut you off.
I completely agree. I just have to say, like, I want someone in the eating disorder field to find a new metaphor or a comparison, because I'm just like, if anyone has a better one than the gun analogy, let's like start using it, because like it's such a good analogy, but I don't feel like it's trauma informed.
It's true.
You know what I mean? Like I'm always like, like let's think of something. But anyway, that was my side note. But yeah, I think when it comes to genetics, another thing that genetics help indicate is a person's temperament, right? It's kind of like, are you going to be prone to perfectionism or anxiety or, I don't know, high achievement, or some of those like temperament pieces that are linked to perfect storm can be traced back to genetics from what I understand. And so that's also a piece. So it's like those traits don't necessarily always turn into an eating disorder, right?
And those traits are not only a liability. Like literally part of our work, you and I, when we use the 8 Keys books by Carolyn Costin, is to look at those traits that might be a liability in an eating disorder recovery context and how to turn them into an asset. Because the assumption isn't that we're going to fix your character traits. The idea is to say, well, that's who you are. Fantastic. Let's use that in a way that is positive in terms of an impact on your life, rather than sort of letting that be something that your eating disorder can hijack. So I don't know where the person came from in terms of like asking that question and being curious. And it's totally understandable that you're curious to understand whether or not there's a genetic component to eating disorders. But what we're trying to say is we're trying to make it really clear that there are so many factors that play a role. There's like an entire puzzle and a bunch of different pieces that come together and that sort of can give you information on why it is that you developed an eating disorder. But you're not doomed. And the fact that the environment plays such a big role is a good piece of news, in my opinion, because it means that we can change that environment.
I also want to add that when you become aware of these kind of puzzle pieces and also aware that you might be someone with that genetic predisposition, it's actually very empowering to be informed with that information. Because if you know, okay, my grandma had a raging eating disorder her entire life, and eating disorders have a genetic component, maybe I should be super aware of my choices around whether or not I should be going on that diet or like exercising so much, like being aware that because of the genetic link, you might be more likely to fall down the rabbit hole of an eating disorder. So before you get an eating disorder, which you're not doomed, but like be proactive and preventative about the choices that you do make, right? Does that make sense? Did I explain that in a way that sounds...
That made sense. At the same time, I'm one of those bazooka people who wants to just destroy diet culture and wellness culture. So I like to insist on that end of the equation, but you're making total sense.
Yeah, like just know, like if I were to have kids one day, I would hope that they'd say, okay, my mom had an eating disorder. So maybe me going on this diet is a slippery slope. Maybe it's not the best idea for me to do this because of what.
So here's a question, Meg.
Yeah.
I find this conversation is going in a place that I did not expect. So say you're a mom and you have kids and your daughter's like, Mom, I really want to go on a diet. Like, of course, I find it empowering and interesting to share maybe with her, like, hey, like, like eating disorders run in the family. This is an extra slippery slope for you. But I sure well hope you're going to be like, Leslie, you should have a talk with Auntie and Claire, because she's going to explain to you why diet culture is an absolute pile of bullshit. You should not look into it. And because Auntie and Claire can swear a lot more than Mom can, then you will have a discussion with her. But like, I find that interesting, because I would, and this is probably also a different, like how you and I sort of like navigate that thing. And I think that because you're a twin, it feels maybe more close to you for some reason, like the genetic thing. But for me, it feels maybe less close. And so I sort of like attach immediately on the conversation of like, but honey, who told you that was going to make you a better person? Like,
well, I would never just be like, go right ahead, hun, figure it out yourself. Like, remember, it runs in the family though. Like, I would give them all the education they needed, the warnings, and obviously, hopefully, so much work goes into body acceptance and body image and all of that. Like, there's no part of me that would just be passive about that situation. Don't you worry. I would come out guns a-blazing if I could. But at the same time, like, obviously there are so many folks out there. You can't just like control everything that your kids do.
No. Right? I mean, I think unfortunately right now in our culture, you can protect and try to like teach your kids from the get-go about body acceptance and be extremely neutral around food and try to sort of like teach them to eat intuitively, etc. They are still unfortunately going to see all the rest of the BS that is around them in school and books and magazines and TV, blah, blah, blah. Like, unfortunately, I don't think that as of today, it's something you can just escape from. And I don't want parents to think that it's their responsibility to sort of create that shield around their kids that is like perfect, because that's not going to work. But yeah, anyway, we
the environment that we all grow up in is setting those parents who are trying to protect their kids at all costs. They're kind of set up for failure because of everything that happens outside of the home, right? I mean, also, it's kind of like what I was saying before. It's kind of like if you have alcoholism in your family and you're growing up in America and your family never has alcohol in the house, and they're like, try to avoid alcohol because it's a slippery slope for our family. It's not safe for our family to be drinking, right? Like, there's a genetic component here. It's like that kid's going to go away to college or go to parties and it's going to be out in the world anyway. Maybe that's an easy comparison to think about. But that's what I meant when I was just thinking of educating your kid on the genetic predisposition, how that might increase their risk. But there's so much more, again, than just the genetic component.
Yeah. Overall, I guess our message is, yes, there is a component that is genetic, but no, it's not an equation that, or some sort of like thing where it's like, if you do, then you would definitely have an eating disorder. And it certainly doesn't mean that you're doomed. And that means you can't heal for any sort of reason. That's absolutely not true. So pay close attention to what you're doing with that information and explore that gently and compassionately. If you want to know more about your sort of like eating disorder puzzle, please do feel encouraged to explore that a little bit more, but don't make that, again, a condition to your healing. You don't have to know exactly why you developed an eating disorder to be able to heal from it. And regardless of what those pieces of the puzzles are, you're not responsible for having developed an eating disorder in the same way that your parents aren't either.
Right. I love that reminder. And I think that's one thing where you think about your puzzle. And I know we need to do another video on this, but thinking about all the things that may have culminated into this life with an eating disorder that you have, just have compassion for yourself and where you are. Don't use those things to blame yourself and make it sound like you picked this, because, you know, your eating disorder is not your fault. So, All right, everyone. Well, we thank you all for watching. You guys are totally amazing. And Claire, you're the best. I can't wait to brush our teeth together now that you mention it.
Thank you, Meg. You're the best too. And I just cannot wait to brush, floss, air floss, water floss, whatever is coming up. I'm ready for it.
Yes. Okay. Bye. Bye. Yeah.